You think just because you're quiet that you're strong. You're nothing without me. Where do you think you're going with that suitcase?
For 15 years, I convinced myself that cruelty was confidence and that control was strength. I told myself that my husband's silence meant acceptance, that his patience proved he needed me more than I needed him. But I never considered that silence can be a countdown and patience can run out without warning. Daniel and I married young. He was gentle and thoughtful, the kind of man who listened instead of competing. I was ambitious, sharp-tongued, and always hungry for more money, more admiration, more power. At first, I loved his steadiness, but over time, I started to despise it. I mistook his kindness for weakness, and once that belief settled in my mind, I treated him accordingly. The mocking started small. Little jokes about how slow he was, how careful, how soft. Our friends would laugh, and I'd laugh right along with them. When he'd flinch, I'd just tell him he was too sensitive. As the years went on, my words grew harsher. I'd correct him in public, dismiss his opinions, and roll my eyes whenever he spoke. At home, I controlled everything, the finances, our plans, even his social life. I isolated him so gradually that I convinced myself he actually preferred it that way. Through it all, he never raised his voice. He never insulted me back. He just absorbed everything quietly, apologizing even when he had done nothing wrong. And that only fueled me more. Power feels intoxicating when no one resists it. The night everything ended didn't feel special at first. We were arguing in the kitchen about something trivial. I don't even remember what it was, but I do remember my words. I remember telling him he was nothing without me, that he would completely fall apart if I ever left. I laughed while I said it, confident, cruel, and certain. That's when he hit me. Not hard enough to seriously hurt me, but hard enough to shock me into silence. My lips split slightly. I tasted blood. For a moment, I was too stunned to react. I had pushed him for 15 years, and I had finally found the edge. But the blow wasn't the real ending. He looked at me with eyes I had never seen before, cold, steady, and just finished. He didn't apologize. He didn't shout. He just told me calmly that it was over, that he was done being broken down piece by piece. I laughed again, out of habit, out of disbelief. I told him he'd never survive without me. That threat had always worked before, but this time he just smiled. He told me to check my phone. There was an email waiting. Divorce papers, detailed, thorough, every affair I thought was hidden. Every financial manipulation, every single lie I had told to maintain control. My entire carefully crafted image collapsed in a matter of seconds. I realized then that he hadn't been blind all those years. He had been waiting. The ground shifted beneath me. He explained quietly that he had documented everything, that he had prepared for this long before I ever noticed. He said he stayed because he hoped I would change, but he was leaving because he finally accepted that I wouldn't. Panic took over. I threatened him, insulted him, promised to ruin his reputation. He didn't react. He simply told me that the truth was already out, and that the people I thought were loyal were already walking away. When he left the house that night, he didn't slam the door. He didn't even look back. The days that followed were unbearable. My phone rang constantly, not with support, but with accusations and disgust. Friends distanced themselves. Colleagues questioned me. My reputation disintegrated faster than I could explain it away. I moved out of the house I once ruled and into a small apartment that felt like a punishment. For the first time in my life, I was truly alone with myself. And I broke down in ways I never had before. Not the performative tears I used to manipulate people, but ugly, uncontrollable sobs filled with regret and fear. I replayed memories I had buried: Daniel's early kindness, the way he used to look at me, the trust I had slowly crushed. I saw myself clearly for the very first time, and I didn't like what I saw. I reached out to my sister, someone I had pushed away years earlier for daring to question my behavior. She came without hesitation. She didn't excuse me, and she didn't condemn me. She simply stayed. With her help, I began therapy. It was brutal. I learned that my cruelty came from deep insecurity, that control was just how I avoided feeling vulnerable. I learned that emotional abuse doesn't leave bruises, but it destroys just as deeply. If you're struggling with your own mental health, please know there's support available. Reaching out is a sign of strength, and help is out there. Months later, I received a letter from Daniel. He wrote that he was doing well, that he had found peace, and that he forgave me not because I deserved it, but because he needed to move on. His kindness hurt more than his anger ever could have. I didn't get my old life back. I didn't deserve to. What I got instead was accountability. Years have passed. I live quietly now. I volunteer. I rebuild relationships where I can. Some people never forgave me, and I accept that. I'm still learning how to speak without cutting, how to love without controlling. I don't tell this story to excuse myself. I tell it because I learned too late that power without empathy destroys everything it touches. I broke a man who loved me, and when he finally fought back, it wasn't with violence or revenge, it was with truth. And that truth ended the woman I used to be. What came after is slower, humbler, and much harder. But it's real. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more.